Hey, this is Joshua with New Review coming at you with a review on the newest episode in this season seventh season of the series Game of Thrones. Just a little background: Game of Thrones is the HBO series that takes place in the fictional universe of Westeros and Essos, set up in the series A Song of Ice and Fire, written by George R.R. Martin. And in this series, we follow several characters from various noble houses as they struggle to gain power over the Iron Throne, and also prepare for a giant war against the undead and White Walkers coming from north of the Wall. And at this point in the series, we're coming towards the end. This season and next season are both going to be shorter. They're in number of episodes. In total hours, they're going to be about the same because they're about an hour and a half each episode. So this is going to be a very interesting next two seasons, especially since this season is going to be about the conquest of Westeros by Daenerys Targaryen of the House Targaryen to reset up the dynasty that her ancestors started. So today we're just going to do a review of the episode Dragonstone. I'm not going to do a whole overview of the series like I've been doing with all my other reviews. So, Dragonstone, I'm going to split up between the various regions. So specifically, King's Landing, the Riverlands, the North, and Dragonstone, which will make sense in a bit. So, first, the Riverlands. First, King's Landing. There's only a scene really in King's Landing, but it's actually very important. In this scene, we're catching up with Jaime and Cersei, who are pretty much the only two members of House Lannister that are important, that are in Westeros at this point. And in this scene, we're in the Red Keep. We're seeing how Cersei is preparing to hold the Iron Throne because she is now queen, which she technically has no right to by blood, but she technically does by conquest. And they're in a room where they painted a map of Westeros on the floor. And so Cersei is trying to figure out how to defend the Seven Kingdoms against an invasion by Daenerys. However, Jaime is a little bit more concerned than Cersei is because he states quite correctly that she's technically the queen of three kingdoms at best. Odds are probably the Crownlands, the Westlands, where they're originally from, and either the Riverlands or the Stormlands. It's not entirely clear which one. My money would be on the Stormlands since they're basically out of people to use to fight. Now there's a little Easter egg towards a prophecy that Cersei is a part of. After the prophecy goes that that she'll be usurped by a queen much more beautiful than her, and that she will have and lose three children, and that she'll be strangled to death by a younger brother. Now her younger brother could either be Tyrion or Jaime, because technically he was born second. And she was standing on the neck, which separates the rest of Westeros from the north, and Jaime was standing next to these little peninsulas in the Vale of Arryn region called Fingers. So that may mean Jaime strangles Cersei. I'd say that's probably how it's going to happen. A little addition here, I forgot about Old Town. In the Old Town scenes, we're basically seeing Sam realizing that going to Maester School isn't as exciting as he thought it'd be. Right now he's just doing a lot of grunt work and he's not happy. So he steals some books from the forbidden section. And this is after he learns that some maesters, at least the archmaester that he was working with on an autopsy, actually believe that the White Walkers existed, and they say because of preponderance of evidence from different sources. which is really interesting, seeing as this takes place in a medieval era, and having a preponderance of evidence to prove things seems very modern, but there's a little bit different society going on there. We also get to see again the cat paws knife, which is the knife that Littlefinger gave to Assassin to try to kill Bran, and some little Easter eggs in like reality. And on top of that, we get to see Jorah Mormont again, and he's in the Citadel trying to get his grayscale cured. Alright, now on to the Riverlands. So the Riverlands have been going through a lot of chaos because the War of the Five Kings, which took up a bulk of the first few seasons of Game of Thrones, basically was fought there. So there was a lot of destruction, a lot of death, and the Riverlands was a breadbasket, so there was a lot more starvation and chaos there. And there's more chaos now because the new Lords Paramount, House Frey, basically was destroyed. Now there are thoughts that the entirety of House Frey, from all the way from Walder to the last baby name with the house name of Frey, was killed. However, in dialogue it says every Frey that gives a damn, and those who took part in the massacre at the Red Wedding are there. So that would mean Frey bastards, Frey adults that were in the twins. So basically, what I think is that everyone of age, be they bastard or trueborn son, are dead, and now all that's left are those who aren't of age. And that gives them the whole issue of succession, because who now succeeds, which causes more chaos, and there are soldiers sent to deal with this chaos to keep the peace. Little Easter egg, Arya comes across this group of soldiers. One of the people playing one of the soldiers is Ed Sheeran. There's a little gift to Maisie Williams because she's apparently a huge Ed Sheeran fan. But what I liked about the scene wasn't the celebrity cameo. What I liked about it was that it really humanized the Lannister soldiers, and it allowed Arya to see a different side of this group of people that she's grown to hate over the last 6-7 seasons. And I really think it was a good come back to human moment, which also happened for Sandor Clegane. Now, Sandor Clegane has joined up with the Brotherhood Without Banners, and they're heading north to fight something that I'll talk about in a little bit. And they come across a house that we'd seen a few seasons earlier, where Sandor Clegane and Arya were together. It was right after the Red Wedding, and Sandor, in this sequence of events, had stolen money and food from a family and left them to die. They did, and they come across this house, these corpses, and on top of figuring out what's going on farther north, by looking at fire and doing red priest type stuff, he digs graves for these people, and it's a very interesting way to see him coming to grips with the pain and suffering he has caused, and I really found it a great humanizing event for Sandor Clegane, because for a long time he's just been a killing machine, and I really enjoyed it. Now to the north. First, we're going to start north of the wall, then south of the wall. North of the wall, Bran has a vision, and we see White Walkers, white giants. By that I mean giants who are dead and now are whites. And it's just this massive force heading towards the wall. And apparently it's heading to Eastwatch by the Sea, which is where the Brotherhood Without Banners is intending to go. and this is just intimidatingly large. And apparently, Bran and Mira are by one of the gates to the other side of the wall, specifically Castle Black. Um, and they're let in after Bran says to Ed that he's seen what he's seen. I mean, what Ed's seen. And then south of the wall, it's Jon pretty much getting prepared for the coming war. He's less concerned with what Cersei is doing than what the Night's King is doing, which makes sense. But he can't really ignore that threat to the south. And Sansa is really trying to get him to be concerned about it. And she's still a little resentful of him being named king in the north, even though technically she has more birthrights since she is not the son, since Jon is the son of Lyanna, not the son of Ned. And in the birthright inheritance laws that exist in Game of Thrones, you go sons that are trueborn, then sons that are bastards, then daughters who are trueborn, and daughters who are bastards. So everyone thinks Jon's Eddard Stark's bastard. It's not. Lyanna Stark's son. And so Sansa technically has right, but we're not going to get into that. And part of getting ready is that the wildlings are going to go to Eastwatch by the Sea to bolster the forces there. So that should be very interesting interactions if we ever get to see that. And then on to Dragonstone. Dragonstone is a very, very quiet scene for most of it, or sequence of scenes. Dany is going to the place where she was born, the only part of Westeros she's ever known, even though she technically was only there for while she was an infant. And it was very powerful scenes, and I read that it was intentionally written so there was silent most of it, because dialogue would have made it seem less impactful. And the entire episode ends with Dany saying, "Let's get planning for this war." And I'm really looking forward to this season. I'm really excited. It took too long. Ready for this season to get going. Hopefully every episode is like a penultimate episode. This is Josh with New Review, signing off with a review on Dragonstone, Game of Thrones Season 7.